I've been playing competitive Pokemon for a really long time. But honestly, for the most part, it's mostly been single battles. 6v6, whether it be Draft League or Smogon, I've kind of just always preferred the single battle format. Now, I have played a little bit of VGC on the side. I've even day 2'd in Toronto. Hey, look, that's me in a Wolfie video. But I've never really super sweat the format or given it an honest chance. However, with the drop of Pokemon Champions and the removal of 6v6, but we won't talk about that, I really wanted to give VGC a proper go. Basically, I want to see how good I can get at the format and if I do enjoy it as much as I do 6v6 singles. My first goal in Pokemon Champions was simple: reach the champion tier. In Pokemon Champions, once you hit the Master Ball rank, your ranking going forward is based on your ELO. For example, Master Ball 1 is top 1,000 in the world. In order to reach champion, you have to hit top 300. We have to climb up from my current ranking of 607. Now you might be thinking, that's not that far. You only really got to win a couple games and you'll be there. And you might be right, but the skill level of a player in Master Ball 1 to champion is really night and day. I remember earlier today seeing a screenshot of the current top 4 in the world as of me recording this. I'm sure it's obviously changed since then, but at that time, let me look at it really quick. It was the top 4 were the Japanese national champion, the Korean national champion, the world champion, and the European international champion. The top 300 is comprised of some dogs. This jump from Master Ball 2 champion won't be an easy one to make, but we're gonna give it our best go. This video is going to chronicle my journey into the champion tier from Master Ball 1 and what I learned along the way. If you guys do enjoy these types of video, I'd really implore you to hit the like button, as well as subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate it a ton. Smaller channel like myself, my goal is 10,000 and I can only really reach that with your help. So I'd really appreciate it a ton. Hit that follow button and yeah, let's jump into it. Let's talk about the team. Now, I featured this team on the channel before, but let's go a little bit more in depth here. I do once again want to give a big shout out to my buddy J-Bear or Jesse504 for the team. This was his original creation. I've just really enjoyed using it. Please go check him out. I'm going to link him in the description below. Full credits to him. Really fun squad, and it was fully of his making. So big shout outs to him. All right, this team is built around Mega Delphox, a Pokemon I really honestly didn't have much of an eye out for originally, but is ridiculously strong. I love the spread heat wave damage that it can output, as well as its really incredible speed tier, and honestly a really strong stab combination. As a singles player, one of my favorite Pokemon to use in the draft format has always been Victini with that fire and psychic typing. Obviously, I can't use that guy in VGC, but similar offensive profile, right? Really strong psychic plus fire damage output, and really pretty easy to build around. Another great thing about Mega Delphox is its speed tier really allows it to have some pretty positive matchup spreads into a lot of the common Megas right now. We're actually going to be a Psyshock variant, and we'll talk about that a little bit more, but that's actually going to allow us to really beat through Pokemon like Mega Floette and Mega Charizard Y. Outside of that, we obviously have Heat Wave for the aforementioned strong spread damage, and Protect. Now, a lot of Delphoxes up to this point that I've seen are either running Substitute or Encore. The main reason they're running that is a means of getting around the very ever-present Kingambit and its Sucker Punches. Now, our team is built in a way in which we shouldn't have to kind of win those 50-50s with Kingambit, so we actually have a really fun tech option in Overheat. Overheat gives us really strong burst damage into a single target option with fire damage, and you'll see throughout this video, it's actually a really clutch addition. I think it's my favorite part of this team. It's not like a world-breaking tech or anything crazy that, like, you know, is absolutely revolutionary, but I do really like this option to give us some pretty crazy damage breakpoints and KOs alongside the rest of our team, as well as some multipliers we can add on top of Delphox. It's also a really big surprise factor in a closed team sheet format like the endgame ladder. Now from here, the team is really built around supporting Delphox and smoking through its checks and counters with other members on our team. The support is mostly dedicated to Whimsicott. Whimsy gives us a few things, the first of which is going to be Tailwind to match other offensive Tailwind teams and give us speed control. It also gives us Encore if we need like Disruption or punishing passive play or Sucker Punches or whatever it may be, especially being that our own Delphox is not going to be an Encore variant. It has Moonblast for damage output, and most importantly, it has Sunny Day as an option. Now, this is pretty interesting because this is not a Sun team at all. It's really just Delphox that benefits from this, but it can benefit in a few ways. The first of which is obviously going to be really strong Heat Waves and especially Overheats. That Sunny Day plus Overheat is really going to give some crazy damage at breakpoints to just completely nuke through neutral targets. It's also going to give us a great option into Weather. And something I noticed with this team is without Whimsicott setting up Sunny Day, this team has a really, really brutal matchup into Rain, as it really weakens our Delphox, and we don't have a traditional water resist outside of Whimsicott either. So being able to weaken those water moves, disrupt electro shots from our Chaladon, weaken down, an adaptability wave crash from a Scarf Basculage and things like that is actually really, really clutch and really nice for our team. So having the Sunny Day option might seem like overkill or might not seem needed, but it really does patch up one of the worst matchups that this build can have. Even against teams like Sand teams, taking away T-Tar's Spadef boost as well as getting rid of like an Excadrill Sand Rush is obviously really, really nice. It's just a nice tech option. Now, I do wish I had Protect, but I really don't think it's able to be fit. If you think that you can handle the potential like weather matchups, you could maybe take off Sunny Day, but I really, really do like having No Protect as an option. Because we're No Protect, this is going to be our Sash Pokemon, ensuring that we always live a hit and get off at least 2 nice utility moves, whether it be anti-setup, into like these Floette builds or the Komodo builds after we get off a Tailwind or whatever it may be. Whimsicott is going to be very, very strong on this team, and honestly one of Delphox's best partners. Now, beyond Whimsicott, like I said, we don't really have much supportive pieces. The next 4 Pokemon on our team are all Pokemon that offensively complement Delphox incredibly. Sneasler is probably one of the best Pokemon in the format right now. It's on like every single team, and in particular, it's great with Delphox. It smokes through most of Delphox's biggest counters in Incineroar and Tyranitar, and it also provides some fake out support, which this team really does appreciate. Getting free turns with Delphox, throw off heat waves and overheats and things like that is obviously very, very important. And it's also great having Sneasler to smoke through King Gambit to either fake it out so we can heat wave or protect on our Delphox so we can close combat through it. Is going to be a really, really nice option. Obviously, moveset wise, we have the aforementioned Fake Out, Close Combat, and Dire Claw as our option. Now, typically, you'll see Protect in this last slot. Again, this team is a little aggressive as a close team sheet team, and we actually have a cool tech option in Coaching in our last slot. You'll see that isn't so much for Delphox, but more so for other members on the team to help complement them and really beef them up without having to take the turn to set up on those Pokemon. So cool tech option. Our item of choice is going to be the White Herb. 1, our Sash is going to be on our Whimsicott, but 2, I really like White Herb, giving us some pretty incredible speed control if we either get intimidated or we click close combat, and having that one-time anti-intim into Incineroar is really, really big on a team that really wants Incineroar completely eliminated from the game so that our Delphox can come in and click Heat Wave, Psyshock, and Overheat. Now, next up is Garchomp, and this is going to kind of be Delphox's main partner in crime. Alongside Delphox and its Levitate ability, you can spam like the combination of Earthquake plus Heat Wave to a vast majority of teams and pick up some pretty consistent KOs, or at least 70 to 80% on even neutral targets, right? Really, really strong combination of moves, crazy spread damage into a format that doesn't have a lot of like crazy combos like this. Our other movesets are going to be Stomping Tantrum for single target ground damage, as well as Dragon Claw to hit things off of the ground, things like Mega Charizard Y, things like Dragonite, things of the sort. Being able to hit those hard is great. Things like Pelipper as well, as Rain is pretty darn popular. And then we obviously have Protect. Now, our item here is a little bit interesting. I've run a lot of White Herb Garchomp, but obviously it's taken up by Sneasler, and I've run a lot of Soft Sand Garchomp because it makes those Earthquakes really strong, and that is definitely a really good option on this team. But I actually really like Lumberry on this team. A lot of the problem matchups that this kind of like helps out is going to be opposing Sun, right? Like Venu Zard. It makes like Delphox plus Garchomp really, really strong in that lead. If we can, attack through that Venu and Heat Wave plus Heat Wave Earthquake through those teams and not have to worry about being put to sleep, it's really nice. It's also really nice in like Rotom Wash matchups. If it's like the defensive set with Will-O-Wisp, you can stay in pretty comfortably and just kind of double attack through. It's like really strong Dragon Claws, and especially alongside Pokemon like Sneasler, if we can get coachinged up. Garchomp can really, really output some crazy damage, and it's just an overall really, really strong Pokemon in the format. So this is kind of a big testament to a big upside to the team, in my opinion. Is a lot of the best Delphox teammates and like Pokemon that facilitate it the best are honestly just some of the best Pokemon in the format. I mean, we aren't breaking the wheel or reinventing the wheel, I guess. Breaking the wheel sounds stupid. We aren't reinventing the wheel or anything here with Whimsicott, Garchomp, and Sneasler, but they do really complement Delphox really, really well. Now, speaking of the best Pokemon in the format, next up we have King Gambit, and this gives us a few things here. First of all, it gives us a pretty strong pin onto opposing teams that have like Basculegion as their main way to revenge Delphox. And honestly, it's very important. Most of the time when you see a Legion, I do have a backline Gambit on this team because of the fact that I need to be able to Sucker Punch pin it so that we don't get smoked by a Scarf Last Respects or a Scarf Wave Crash. Obviously, we have to play around Aqua Jets and things like that, but a Protect and a Kowtow Cleave, and you're going to be good to go. Honestly, the combination of Sucker Punch plus Delphox is usually enough to pick up a lot of KOs and pin a lot of, really, really scary Pokemon. So I really do like King Gambit, and King Gambit really is annoyed for the most part by Pokemon like Sneasler, and Delphox is going to be a Pokemon that's faster than it naturally and is going to be able to one-hit KO with a Psyshock, which is great. Or bring it down to Sash, which we can just Sucker Punch through it after that with our King Gambit. It's also another Pokemon that really does punish Incineroar with its Defiant ability. Obviously, we can't hit it super hard with our moveset, and we'll talk about that. We're not a low-kick King Gambit, but forcing damage on it is good for our Delphox to at least force an endgame, maybe where Incin isn't dead, but it's very, very chipped down. And the combination of Sneasler plus King Gambit is really going to deter a lot of Incineroar type builds to even feel comfortable coming to where we can either backline Delphox and do a lot of damage, or we can lead it in the front and do a lot of damage, as we expect the Incineroar to not come in or something. It also gives us a Pokemon that's really strong into Farigiraf Trick Room. If they're not like Colbur Farigiraf, having this to super punish that Pokemon for wanting to try and set up Trick Room is going to be really, really nice. The combination of Delphox plus King Gambit should be able to take on even the most physically defensive Farigs. So that's obviously something that's nice as well. The team is a little bit weak to Trick Room, and we'll talk about that throughout the video, but it's going to be kind of one of our anti-Trick Room pieces, at least. Now, our moveset is a little bit unconventional. Typically, you'll see either Swords Dance or Low Kick on King Gambit. We have Iron Head, as it gives us another option to hit Tyranitar plus Floette, and I really like the option to hit Floette, as well as have the Stab Iron Head. The Stab Iron Head also hits Sneasler really hard if it wants to try and switch in on us, which a lot of them do try and end up doing, so, to guard against Kowtows and things like that. So, I really like that option personally. And then our item of choice is actually also going to be pretty unconventional. You'll typically either see a Chople Berry, but more than likely a Black Glasses on King Gambit. And I think both of those are totally viable on this team. You can totally do so if you want to give this team a try yourself. But we're actually Citrus Berry. I love the survivability, especially taking 2 Dazzling Gleams from Floette is really, really nice with our Citrus Berry. And I also really like it alongside Coaching with our Sneasler. Once we really start beefing this guy up, if we get a Defiant boost and a Coaching boost and whatever it may be, we can really start doing some crazy damage whilst keeping ourselves around just with that nice little bit of burst healing. Lastly, this team desperately needs a Choice Scarfer, and we settled on Basculegion here. Now, again, I know these 4 Pokemon that are kind of tacked on are just 4 of the best regular non-Mega Pokemon in the format, but I promise you they do fit very, very well. Adaptability Wave Crash in Flip Turn and Emergency Aqua Jets can output some pretty crazy damage, especially into rain if we aren't able to reset the weather. It's really, really nice. And obviously smokes through Pokemon like Incineroar, like Tyranitar, things like that. Hits them very hard. And then obviously we have Last Respects, which is one of the most broken moves in the game, and I really do like it on offensive teams like this, where I am going to be losing pieces early, right? So I'll basically always have 100 base power, adaptability, Last Respects always waiting in the back with our Basculegion, which I do think is really nice. But really the main reason that I think this Pokemon is on the team is if you look at the team right now, we're actually quite weak to Sneasler. We don't have a great switch into that Pokemon, and honestly, we don't have a fake out immune Pokemon right now. Something to really punish these aggressive or these safe fake outs that are being clicked into our team. It's just having a Whimsicott that can encore them, right? So I like having this Pokemon to switch into fake outs, and in particular switch into Sneasler as we do resistance dual stabs. I haven't seen any running throat chop. Maybe I saw one running throat chop, but I haven't seen any running throat chop really outside of lower tiers on the ladder. So we're kind of banking on that and making this our main Sneasler check. This allows us to position some pretty strong flip turns as well to chip things down, maybe sack something, get back into Basculegion and clean up some end games. Honestly, a great backline win condition and comes to a lot of battles in that regard. Really strong alongside Sneasler as well, whether it be to pin Pokemon like King Gambit into wanting to sucker punch our Basculegion, but then we can KO it with a close combat or whatever it may be, or even popping a Coaching into your Basculegion. Obviously, your Sneasler will be slower if you haven't procced Unburden, but if you can boost up those Wave Crashes and those Last Respects, there aren't Pokemon in the game that take those hits. There just really isn't. So yeah, I really do like Basculegion on this team a lot. It's pretty simple. We're Jolly because it allows us to outspeed Mega Gengar, and I think having another Pokemon on our team that can do that is always going to be really nice. And that's the team. Let's take a look at some of the games. We're going to be going over, we're not going to be going over every single game in its exact entirety. We're going to be going over important points, games I think are interesting, things like that. You'll know the result of every game from Master Ball 1 all the way up to Champion once we eventually hit that. Because again, the video's not ending until we hit that. So if we're here for a couple hours, buckle in. But if you guys do want to just see the battles in their entirety, let me know. I'm not opposed to just compiling them all and putting them on a big unlisted video. If you want to see the VOD of that, let me know. If there's an actual interest for it, I don't mind doing so. So yeah, let's see some games. Let's see some games. Our first session here actually starts off with a team pretty similar to a team I played to get into Master 1 itself. On lead, I saw the combination of T-Tar plus Sinistra, which lets me position a Fake Out plus Overheat combo. Overheat seems like overkill, but Heatwave never kills Sinistra, and this prevents any annoying Trick Room shenanigans from occurring. This is a big reason I really love Overheat on Delphox, as the insane burst damage is huge for hitting key KOs that most other Delphoxes just aren't getting. From here, it's pretty easy to position endgame as I KO the Mega T-Tar on the next turn with close combat as I pivot into King Gambit on my Delphox slot. From here, my opponent just ends up forfeiting. Game 2, we play my biggest op, Mega freaking Blastoise. You might be thinking, oh cool, that's Redirection plus Shell Smash. That's fun. No, I wish. Because while that might make the Water Spout stronger in theory, I can outplay and outpace with Encore and Tailwind for my Whimsicott if that's the case. The issue here lies with the fact that Blastoise teams are all running Trick Room plus support. Farigiraf subs priority, Sinistra redirects and keeps Blastoise healthy, heck, this Sableye can even Fake Out and Quash mons. With this very offensive team, I've been super struggling with these Water Spout Blastoise Trick Room teams. This game I try to position around it with Whimsicott plus Legion on lead. I position in my King Gambit on a strong Water Spout and think I can Sunny Day on the following turn to live the incoming second spout. Unfortunately, this Sableye is rocking freaking Rain Dance, and I lose both Pokemon immediately. From here, my opponent can reposition with Trick Room very comfortably into Mega Blastoise and get up Trick Room. And the game's over, and we take our first loss of the session. This is a huge problem matchup for me that I just haven't solved. If anybody has any ideas, let me know, because I'm stumped. We are able to bounce back in a big way in our next ladder game, as we see the power of Whimsicott into Rain. Our Prankster Sunny Day plus Delphox is able to flip this matchup on its head, letting us output some super strong damage early, setting up for a backline of Garchomp and King Gambit to win. This puts us at 518 on the ladder after this short mini session of 2 wins and 1 loss. Now the next time I jump back on the sticks, I immediately load into that stupid turtle. This time it's a bit more of an offensive build, with a Tailwind aspect and Talonflame. We see said lead immediately with Talonflame plus Blastoise into my Whimsicott and Sneasler. Turn 1, the plan is pretty simple. Fake Out into Talon to break its Sash and Gale Wings and get Tailwind up. If Talon elects to Protect, I can Encore into said Protect. Now, you might be thinking, there's a problem with that silly little plan. Full HP out Talonflame will out-prioritize me with its Gale Wings, making this play super incorrect for me, losing me both Mons. If my opponent doesn't switch into Sinistra. This allows me to hit Blastoise through the hard close combat before Sneasler goes down. From here we can position Delphox Heatwave plus Moonblast into Blastoise. But not only do we miss Blastoise with Heatwave, making Moonblast come up short, we also don't take out Sinistra, letting Trick Room go up. As unfortunate as this is, I think this was a play mistake on me. I know that Sinistra lives Heatwave, as we talked about in our first game, so my correct play was to Sunny Day to ensure that KO while weakening water moves from Blastoise. Instead, we lose Delphox to a double up from Dark Pulse and Matcha Gotcha. We can take a double KO on the following turn with Gambit plus Whimsicott, but now we have to take on Excadrill and Talonflame. Whimsy then goes down, which has us looking very dire. We have Excadrill in range of Sucker Punch now, but if this Talonflame has Flare Blitz, we're done for. The turn pops and Talonflame clicks to a Wing Beat. This is incredible, as it likely means the Talonflame can't hit us at all. We kill the drill with Sucker Punch and then Kowtow twice to pick up the win. Not my cleanest game at all. I think I made 2 pretty big misplays. But a W against a stupid Blastoise is a big win in my books. Next game, and oh my god, another Blastoise, please no more. This team is odd though, as it's rocking with Weavile and Cleavor on lead. Regardless, I know this isn't a Trick Room Stoise team, which makes it very beatable in my eyes. After trading Tailwind, we see Cleavor pivot out into Stoise as we click Heat Wave plus Moonblast. Weavile, likely Sash, does live the exchange but misses its triple axle on Whimsicott, allowing us to hit Blastoise down to like 27%. From here, our opponent forfeits, which, I get it. But I was okay with this trade, as all the damage on Weavile and Stoise actually had me set up pretty incredibly for the next turn. Regardless, we take it. From here, things start going downhill a little bit. We win our next game into our Garchomp Floette Talonflame offense by just spamming Garchomp Earthquake next to Delphox Psyshock. Then we take a loss against Blastoise Rain Tailwind because we lost our Whimsicott too early by playing super over aggressively. We then lose our next game to Mega Crab Trick Room of all things due to an unlucky crit from Last Resort Kangaskhan. And then after that, we fall to a Tailwind Mega Charizard Y team after losing the speed control game. We lose another game to Mega Dragonite, getting hit by a Hurricane in the sun to lose. This has been an absolutely brutal streak, and we need to end it ASAP if we want any chance of reaching champion anytime soon. Our next opponent here is rocking with some Sun offense with an interesting tech option in Hisuian Zoroark. I like to go Delphox plus Garchomp on lead as it's pretty flexible into everything they have. Taking on Sneasler, Venus with our Lum, and Zard pretty well. Turn 1, I protect on both Pokemon into a Garchomp Sneasler lead, wanting to make sure there's no Zoroark on the field in disguise. After I see there isn't, I know I can Psyshock Oko the Sneasler and hit Garchomp hard with the Dragon Claw. I know I live a 3-hit Scale Shot or an opposing Dragon Claw, and if they hit me first, I can KO them after a drop or Rough Skin. Unfortunately, neither of these happens, as my Garchomp goes down to a 4-hit Scale Shot. That's no biggie though, as from here, I can position Whimsicott for a super strong Tailwind. My opponent goes Charizard Y as I KO their Garchomp with Psyshock. Yard brings Whimsicott to Sash and weakens my Delphox. The opponent's last mon is revealed to be Venus, so we keep it simple with a Heat Wave plus Moonblast into it, KOing it and leaving just Charizard. Knowing they can't win from here, my opponent ends up forfeiting and we break the streak. Now, I could have ended the session here on a win, but I really wanted to end on a win streak of my own. So against my better judgment, we load up one more game. We roll into System again, but this time instead of a Hisuian Zoroark, the Ghost type is a scary eruption spamming Hisuian Typhlosion. We went with the usual, Chomp and Delphox. Heat Wave is super free on lead as I click it and pivot up my Garchomp to preserve it for the Suncor later. Whimsicott isn't really threatened by either of these guys, letting me stagger my Tailwind afterwards and exert some Encore pressure on a Dragon move clicking Garchomp. After a double attack into my previous Garchomp slot from the opponent, I can Tailwind and Heat Wave again as my opponent switches in and it hits me hard with a Rock Slide. I get back into Chomp and my Whimsy slot the next turn, protecting my Delphox to not die to Heat Wave or Rock Slide. This turn works out perfectly, as Garchomp ends up protecting and Heat Wave comes out. This means their Garchomp cannot protect itself from this turn and risks getting blown up by Heat Wave plus Dragon Claw. For an unknown reason, my opponent elects to switch their Charizard into Venusaur, which isn't even Sash for some reason. This lets it get blown up by a Psyshock. Garchomp goes down as well, leaving only Whimsicott and Charizard. This combo is never enough to handle our full team of 4, and we can just go with Dragon Claw and Heat Wave for a safe victory. Throughout all of our sessions so far, we have a record of 7-4. This is okay, but we really haven't climbed at all. Other people are grinding for Champions rank too, and we've actually fallen to 645 at the time of our next session. We really need to lock in and get a big win streak going. Our first game starts off on the right foot. Our Delphox and Sneasler combo puts in some crazy early pressure to allow us to position an endgame where we can win with Garchomp and Delphox to pick up a big win. Next game, same thing. Despite a turn 1 double Heat Wave miss, we were able to reposition and win the game with Delphox plus Garchomp in an endgame versus Charizard and Gardevoir. Overheat once again clutches up, picking up a massive KO on the Spadef bulky Gardevoir from full in the sun, letting us string together an official win streak. This 2-game hot streak has us super close, 434. If we can keep the ball going, we can do this tonight. Our next game starts off okay enough, and we find ourselves in a position to get a huge double KO on Garchomp with Sucker Punch and Frost Slash with Overheat. First, Garchomp goes down to Sucker Punch, and then Frost Slash dodges an Overheat. This allows it a free Blizzard KO and leaves my Kingambit alone on the field with it and Basculin Legion. These are 2 Pokemon Kingambit can take on its own, however the 2 at the same time is just too much damage. We lose our first game of the session. This feels bad, but it wasn't my play here that lost me the game. Now, I won't lie, we did let this tilt us quite a bit, and we got smoked by Rain for letting our Delphox go down too early by playing way too over-aggressively. We gotta nip this tilt in the bud right now, or the session will see us fall further away from our goal. In our next game, we see a Milotic and Aegislash lead, which I elect to play it safe on my own Delphox and take a turn 1 Protect over taking a KO on Aegislash with Overheat. This covers a scary double up into it, letting me get off a huge close combat into Milotic. After a double Protect on the next turn, I realize it's time. Overheat surprises yet another opponent for a big KO on Aegislash as Sneasler hits the Charizard for a huge amount of damage on the switch with a close combat. This allows me to knock off the Zard on the following turn with the Dire Claw, and realizing they're way too far behind, having lost 2 mons for 0 damage, my opponent just forfeits. Okay, we're back on the board, losing streak ended. We see what has to be our 1000th Mega Charizard Y team next. We start off turn 1 in a pretty incredible way, hitting Garchomp on the switch with a super strong Psyshock while Charizard Y protects itself from a fake out. We make a bit of a call here, expecting Garchomp to protect to avoid a KO. I go for a double up KO on the vulnerable Charizard. Now the Garchomp doesn't protect, but it only clicks Rock Slide after we do indeed tech out Charizard Y. Sneasler comes out next and I see an opening. We protect on Delphox to keep it safe and go hard Whimsicott. If Sneasler elects to fake out, it will have to switch the next turn or be threatened by an Encore lock. I think I get the play correct and think I'm good to go, only for Sneasler to reveal Feint and knock me out with a Rock Slide after it breaks my Protect. Now, this was unexpected and pretty unfortunate. But there's no worries here, as the next turn I can click Tailwind with my Garchomp on the field to click another strong EQ. Sneasler protects as Garchomp goes down to the combination of Earthquake and Rough Skin after hitting me low with a Dragon Claw. The Protect seals my opponent's fate though, as I can Encore Lock Sneasler, knock it out, and force a forfeit with my opponent knowing I had Sneasler in the back for their King Gambit. Okay, another Sun team. Let's not go over this gameplay loop again. Garchomp and Sneasler break through early to allow Delphox to lock it up in the late game. Alright, there's a nice 3-game win streak, and now we have to face the mon who beat us last time, Mega Frostlass. This Mega Frostlass team actually has a ton of other unconventional threats like Glamora, Aegislash, and Gyarados. In fact, this is Scarf Gyarados, and it gives us a ton of trouble on lead, forcing us to pivot around a ton before finally taking it down with a Kowtow Cleave. We do lose our Garchomp in the process though, making us reposition into Delphox. With a vulnerable Sneasler out, I like to make a bit of a play here, switching out my King Gambit for Sneasler and clicking Heat Wave, expecting a King Gambit switch in. We do so perfectly, bringing down Gambit to 15% and KOing Aegislash. The following turn we see a double protect from the opposing team, and now we're in a bit of a tricky spot. We have to call what the target of Sucker Punch will be. If we protect our Delphox, we'll lose our Sneasler to Sucker, pinning us the turn afterwards. If we lose our Delphox to Sucker, even if we kill the Gambit, we will lose to their much healthier Sneasler. But there is a third option. An option that lets Delphox KO King Gambit and live a Sucker Punch while protecting our Sneasler from Sucker Punch. Coaching. I have never coached Delphox before this battle, but doing so here allowed me to live a Sucker Punch on the following turn, KO Gambit with Sneasler, and KO their own Sneasler with Psyshock. 4 straight wins, and we've broken into the 300s. It's so close, I can taste it. One more win and we are in champion. Our opponent is ranked what? Good news, if we win, we'll jump up a ton of points. Bad news, our opponent is him, or her, sitting at top 20-ish on the ladder. This battle was a great test in showing of how good some people are at VGC, and how much I honestly have to learn. My opponent had a team that I've honestly played a ton. Sun with Arrow Tailwind. Despite pretty consistent success against this type of team, I was just thoroughly outplayed here. Mega Arrow Dual Wing Beat threw me off, as I assumed my Delphox would just have the speed advantage and it was Sash Aerodactyl. This really aggressive assumption caused me to lose my Sneasler ASAP. Losing this much ground immediately off of a super over-aggressive turn 1 made this game pretty much impossible. I try my best to pivot around and snag some speed control, but Arrow plus Instant and Sneasler is just too much and we get smoked. Thankfully, we don't lose too many points because our opponent's rank, but this is a good wake-up call. The threshold for champion is no joke, and now we need at least 2 wins straight to break into champs. Our next game we load into some Mega Floette offense. Our Delphox matches up quite well into these teams if we can position it correctly around King Gambit and Basculegion. Turn 1 we lead into Garchomp Floette, and I know getting damage off on Floette is our utmost priority. Psyshock does a ton off rip. Then we double up and hit Garchomp hard with the Moonblast from Whimsicott. The next turn we can protect and try to tactfully sack Whimsicott and get up Tailwind, allowing me to position 2 offensive threats in the field instead of just Delphox for maximum Tailwind efficiency. A Floette Protect prevents this, but said Protect leaves it wide open the next turn. And while Whimsicott isn't the most offensive Pokemon, it's plenty offensive enough to KO Garchomp from the range it's at. I try to make a bit of a play here, expecting Floette to pivot out into King Gambit. My Overheat does kill it, but it sets us up in a tough spot the next turn at -2 when King Gambit comes in. I pivot out into my Sneasler on Gambit as my opponent gets in their Basculegion for Garchomp, and now I threaten huge damage on a King Gambit with a close combat. Either King Gambit takes a hit or Garchomp gets sacked. The King Gambit stays in, so I think I have a free kill here, but Chople King Gambit survives on a crazy 2% HP, implying it actually has a lot of bulk. Our White Herb isn't enough to save us from a Last Respects as it KOs us the next turn. On said next turn, I have to protect my Delphox as I reset Tailwind, letting Whimsicott go down to Legion. This still doesn't give us the position we want, as regardless we have to lock into Jet to not lose to Gambit Sucker Punch. This means that a repositioned Basculegion will beat us after a Garchomp sack. I try for an Overheat crit the Sun, but that doesn't happen and we drop our second straight. This is where our tough mental game has to kick in, as despite the 2-game loss streak, we didn't lose that many points, as our opponent was a good 100 plus elo ahead of us on the ladder. I don't think I played that game too poorly outside of the Overheat over prediction, so we just have to take a deep breath and move forward. More Floette offense is next, as we see a dual Mega team with Mega Frostlass. Once again, our success will depend on how we can leverage our Mega Delphox and position around threats like Basculegion and King Gambit. On lead, we see a pretty tough combo of Chomp and Sneasler into our Delphox and King Gambit. I am forced into Legion on our King Gambit, as I feel like I really need Gambit for their Legion. We protect as CC whiffs into Legion and Rock Slide chips it down a little bit. This sets up the following turn for me to click a strong Psyshock plus Wave Crash combo into Garchomp, expecting Sneasler to switch or protect, trying to nab an aggressive early KO. There is no protect from Sneasler, but we can at least grab a KO on non-Scarf Chomp with our double up. This aggressive sneezer play is pretty annoying, but it's nothing we can't recover from. King Gambit comes in, but I realize my opponent still isn't in a great spot. Sure, they can secure a KO with Sucker Punch here, but they have to pick if they want to KO Legion or Delphox. The other will have a speed advantage and get a KO. My opponent chooses Basket Legion as the safe option, knowing it probably doesn't have Protect. Unfortunately, we faced the first Focus Sash Sneasler I've seen all week. I probably should have expected this after the first turn, to be fair, and we go down to close combat. All is not lost though, as our backline can pin this. King Gambit can beat a 1 HP Sneasler, pinning it with Sucker Punch, and our own Sneasler threatens a big KO into their King Gambit with CC. After they spend a turn protecting, we take a strong double KO, killing King Gambit even after a Choppleberry procs. From here, there's not many Pokemon that can take on Sneasler plus Gambit alone, and our opponent forfeits. One more game. We finally see a little variety, with a dual Mega Team featuring Scovillain and probably Mega Dragonite. The combination of Chomp plus Delphox is super strong here, as Mega Scovillain can't burn it, and Chomp has a Lumberry for the super annoying ability. We see a Kommo-o lead next to it, so I decide to make an aggressive Whimsicott pivot in on my Chomp slot to punish any type of setup turn, as I can't be Rage Powdered. Delphox clicks a super strong Heat Wave into both, as now we can punish the heck out of the Kommo-o Clangorous Soul. Our play here is to Side Shock into Scove and Encore the Kommo-o just in case they want to stay in. Scove barely holds on as Kommo-o protects. But we're never in danger of a KO here as long as Whimsicott doesn't get burned, as it's holding a Focus Sash. The following turn we can lock the Kommo-o into Protect and KO Scovillain with Heat Wave. After Kommo-o gets Protect locked and we KO their Mega, my opponent realizes they still haven't made much progress outside of breaking Sash on Whimsicott. Because of this, they kind of realize it's over and they forfeit. We did it. Champion tier. I went into this video not really having a plan or a big message in mind at the end. I think I learned a lot about this team and especially myself as a player on this journey though. I noticed I tend to play very aggressively at times, going for big all or nothing plays when I can pivot around and reposition and set up safer lines. I caught myself not faking out the obvious click very often, expecting a Protect, or expecting a crazy switch and clicking a strong Overheat just to get -2 for no reason. These plays really just punished me a lot when I didn't need to get punished. There are also certain team styles I had a lot of trouble into. I know we joked about it early on in the video with the Blastoise thing, but Trick Room plus Furrygraph was really tough for me. I don't know if it was how I played or just the team's matchup into that team style, but it's a matchup I consistently found myself losing. I also built a ton of confidence here. I don't think I'm a world-class VGC player just yet, but getting to champion, peaking at rank 215 after this last battle, is no small feat. I think in particular I learned a lot about proper offensive positioning and stacking the correct pieces at the right time to find really strong offensive pins. I still have a ton to learn, and I hope I can keep battling like a champion throughout Pokemon Champions, maybe even being good enough to compete at Worlds one day. If you guys did enjoy this video and are enjoying me delving into the VGC scene more as opposed to my usual singles-based content, I'd really appreciate your support in the video with a like and a sub to the channel. It really does mean a lot to a smaller creator like me. Let me know of other VGC-centric videos that you guys would like to see, or whether or not you'd like to see me do a video like this climbing to champion in upcoming seasons and formats as well. I really appreciate you guys hanging out with me today. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next time. Later.